Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. This is Mike. I'm here to do another chapter in my series of a film for each year of my life. And now I am up to the year 1969, which is the year that I turned 18 and graduated from high school. That was another life. Okay, so 69 was quite a good year for films. Very interesting time of human history, American culture, Hollywood culture. We have the mainstream represented by True Grit, which was a big studio Hollywood film, and a film that won John Wayne his only Academy Award for Best Actor. But on the other side of the spectrum, the artistic spectrum, you have the counterculture growing and expanding and having more influence and pushing the mainstream side. So you had films like Goodbye Columbus, which I have not seen since it came out all that time ago. I can't even remember what it was about. You had films like Midnight Cowboy, the best picture of the year, which was rated X originally, and we had Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, starring Natalie Wood, which is, I should say, a brilliant satire on the sexual revolution that was happening in the culture at that time. What else did we have that year? They Shoot Horses, Don't They? Starring Jane Fonda, which was another brilliant, realistic film, which was very, very sad, very depressing. But the film which stands out for me and for a lot of people as the film of that year, representing the counterculture and the new mindset among younger people, has to be Easy Rider. Okay, Easy Rider. I love this movie. I've loved it ever since I saw it at the age of 18. Um, Directed by Dennis Hopper, the first film that he directed. He starred in the film along with Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson. And wow, this was so innovative in its camera work, which was by Laszlo Kovacs, another man who came up through the low budget studio sort of apprenticeship program like Jack Nicholson had been doing. And this was the film that made Jack Nicholson, well, it pretty much made him a star overnight, even though he had been working as an actor since 1958, also writing and really trying to make a name for himself. But this pretty much did it. Um, okay, so what is this film about? It is about these two guys, Wyatt, played by Peter Fonda, who also in the film is known as Captain America, and Billy, played by Dennis Hopper. These two guys sort of appear out of nowhere. They don't really have any backstory. We don't know that much about them. They just look like typical young people, hippies, you know, fighting against the system. They're just sort of established that way right away. But they're in Mexico. They're storing a big bunch of cocaine. When we next see them, they are appearing in, or I should say, at the Los Angeles airport, and they are selling all these drugs to a pusher played by Phil Spector, who shows up in a limousine. And I think it was Phil Spector's only acting job. He was a famous producer, for those of you who don't know the name. So all this is happening to the tunes of a couple of songs by, well, Steppenwolf. They're a very famous downbeat song called The Pusher. So we hear about the Pusher Man as a monster. He tears your body down, but the dealer is the one who sells you a lot of sweet dreams by providing you with grass. So I guess the pusher in this scenario is supposed to be the Phil Spector character, the rich straight guy in the limousine, whereas these two anti-heroes, I guess we're not supposed to see them as pushers, or maybe we are. I'm not really sure. But okay, so they make a big bunch of money. They buy these beautiful motorcycles, these beautiful choppers, and they take off on an odyssey across America, at least the American Southwest, to the tunes of Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf. And then their goals in life are very simple, really. All they want to do is go to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, I guess, so they can prepare for Lent. No, I don't think so. And then they want to retire in Florida. That's their big plan for life, right? So we get to see these guys having confrontations in small towns with people who don't want to rent them rooms or serve them food. They meet up with, in one of the small towns, they end up getting arrested for uh, parading without a permit because they end up riding into a town where there's a parade taking place, and they just sort of join in for a joke, and they get arrested. And that's where they meet George Hansen, who is a local boy who is a lawyer from a prominent local family. And he's also an alcoholic, and he keeps getting thrown in jail for being drunk. So this lawyer is able to help these guys get out of jail, and he decides to go off with them and go off to their trek to their destiny. Excuse me, destiny. Of course, now before these guys end up meeting George in the small town, they pick up a hitchhiker played by Luke Askew, and they head for a commune. And they spend a day or two at the commune, getting to know some of the people and experiencing that life. Wyatt is invited to stay, not Billy, because they don't really like him that much. But Wyatt says, no, I just have to go. So anyway, I don't want to give too much away here because there may be some people out there who still have never seen Easy Rider, and I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't. But I think by now most people in the culture have seen it at least once, and you know what happens. I will just say that, like a lot of the films in that era of Hollywood films and independent films, people were no longer guaranteed a happy ending, and that's certainly not what you get in Easy Rider. It's a very tragic film, but I don't want to spoil anything for you. But I will just say that I've loved this film ever since I first saw it, and I love it today. I look at it differently now than I used to. I don't see these men as the heroic, courageous figures that I did during my younger days. I see them now as pretty much reflective of the mainstream that they were supposedly fighting against. I mean, their whole goal is to take this money, which they made, by the way, by providing a product to people who are probably going to have difficult times because of it. You could compare this to somebody who works for a chemical company that poisons water or poisons the air or crops, something like that. They're providing a dangerous drug, which is probably going to be a lot of fun for some people, but cause a lot of addiction and misery for quite a few. All right, so they're just doing this for no other reason than they want to get rich, just like the most typical capitalists you could ever think of. Then they want to go to a big party at Mardi Gras, which is the ultimate celebration of the flesh. So they're all completely self-centered. And then they want to retire in Florida. What could possibly be more mainstream and capitalistic than that? So I look at these guys a lot differently now. In the same way that I look at the film The Graduate, which came out 2 years earlier. So I saw that when I was 16, but I remember looking at those two young people at the end of the film who the guy, Benjamin, played by Dustin Hoffman, had rescued Catherine Ross. I can't remember her name in the film, had rescued her from a wedding, a marriage that she wasn't really wanting to get involved in. And they jumped on a bus and they were escaping, right? So we were all like cheering these great people. Wow, you got free. You're going to have a great life. And now I look at the film and I think, nah, these people are doomed. They are doomed to end up exactly like their parents. So your perceptions change as you get older. When you get old, you lose all of your illusions. So I guess if you live long enough, you might create some new ones. So we shall see. Anyway, great film. I have this not only on this single DVD, but also in this box set, BBS Lost and Found. And I also have the soundtrack album. Great music in this. We have Jimi Hendrix. We have the Byrds. We have a song written by Bob Dylan, performed by Jim McGuinn of the Byrds. We have the Electric Prunes. We have, now in the band they have the famous song in the film we have the famous song by the band called The Weight. But for some reason they couldn't get the rights for the record, so it's done by a group called Smith. If you remember that group, they had a great female singer. But great song by Jimi Hendrix. And of course, in the film, you don't get to hear all the music. You just hear parts of it. So that's kind of frustrating, but it works for the film. And this is one of the first films to use just recorded music instead of having a score written. So that was an innovation right there. As I said, great cinematography by Laszlo Kovacs. And one final thing, I went to see this movie with my girlfriend, and after the film was over, we were so affected by it, so transfixed that we couldn't move, we couldn't speak. And even after the credits were done rolling, we sat there completely still, didn't even look at each other, didn't say a word, and we sat through the whole film again. And that was the second time in my life that I had done that. The previous year, with the same girlfriend, we did the same thing during Rosemary's Baby. We sat there not able to move, and we watched the whole thing again. So that's only happened to me twice in my life. Some of the other people in the film, you have Luana Anders, who is one of the Roger Corman roster of young actors that kind of came up through low-budget films and was a very close friend of Jack Nicholson. We also have Karen Black. We have Tony Basil, the very famous dancer and choreographer. Robert Walker is in the film, Robert Walker Jr., I should say. And let's see, who else do we have? Sabrina Sharf, Warren Finnerty. Yeah, I didn't pronounce that very well, did I? I guess that's about it. Dan Haggerty shows up as one of the people on the commune, and it's just a great film. And I think that if you've never seen this, you really should, because it's a landmark of American culture, which back then was counterculture, but now it is the culture. So, and if you've seen this before, then you know that it's definitely a keeper and worth watching many, many times. So I guess that's all I want to say. Keep an eye out for my friend Rob of Rob's Movie Collection, who should be doing his chapter in this series, hopefully anytime soon. Rob, you out there? So comments are welcome. Take care, folks.